Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Keith Giffen Day. We're taking a look at Ambush Bug, issue number 3, cover dated August 1985. Remember that date just because this is pre-Crisis, right? When we talk about that, if anyone doesn't know out there real quick, Crisis on Infinite Earths, a DC line-wide kind of storyline that retconned all the continuity and started everything over from scratch. For the first time, really, at this point, DC had all these different Earths and different Batmans on each of them with different storylines and stuff. So Keith Giffen here maybe gotten wind of that. I don't know, but, you know, because this is a humorous and parody kind of style comic, maybe given the chance to kind of poke fun at all of those, problems that have come up from all this continuity from over, I guess, this point, 40-something years of comics and characters. And so he's definitely going to take advantage of that in this issue here. Back in 1985, behind the scenes, kind of stuff wasn't very common generally in any kind of media. So in a certain way, Keith Giffen here has given us a little bit of history of comics as well. So not a typical comic per se. I was very surprised with kind of the format of it and the storytelling of it. But rather than describe it while we're not looking at it, not going to say much about the cover. We're going to go right into it here, but it is a little bit of a hint of what we're going to be looking at, the Ambush Bug history of the DC universe, and looking at some of the weirder, kookier characters maybe the DC with Crisis on Infinite Earths is looking to get rid of, right? Or in here he posits they already have in a certain way. Anyways, some funny stuff actually. I'll go through and read some of it. So this first splash page kind of sums up really what this comic is, this particular issue is all about. So I think it's worth reading, and then everything else kind of just will really make sense to you guys. So there are worlds within worlds and planets without number, a universe made up of billions upon billions of uncharted globes. But let's face it, this is ridiculous. Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, Earth C. I mean, give me a break already. I have trouble finding the 7-Eleven. Do you hear what I'm saying? All right, okay, so what we've got is what? Too many characters? Nah, they're all good. Even Matter Eater Lad. No, the problem here is that things in the DC universe have just gotten too organized. You see, the folks who run the industry decided that in order for people to take comics seriously, they'd have to have internal logic and make complete sense, like the real world. But in their haste, they overlooked some of our forgotten heroes of yesteryear. In order to rectify this error, we're going to have to play their game, the continuity game. So again, that's pretty much the setup. Great kind of splash page, I think, to start us off and drive home the concept of all these multiple Earths, right? And then he goes right into it with just, again, as he mentioned, some of them, kookier and crazier kind of concepts that, again, DC's probably looking to get rid of. Some mostly Silver Age stuff, I think, right? And a lot of these, a few of these I knew about, but a lot of them I had no idea, and I kind of figured stuff out. And of course, he actually describes it here. So the first character he introduces us to is called Egg Fu. I knew a little bit about him. I'd seen him before. Obviously a Silver Age guy, right? So Wonder Woman 157 and 158 in 1965. So yeah, definitely Silver Age stuff. Kooky concept. All I know is he's shaped like an egg and he's some sort of Asian stereotype, right? And so he gives you a bit of history on the character, who he was, and each character he kind of posits, their demise. It's more of a joke than an actual factual thing within the DC continuity. But it's Ambush Bug and it's parody, so there's got to be some humor to it too. I mean, obviously these concepts already are just humorous by the fact that, out of context, they do seem very ridiculous. This is not no midget, me Wonder Tot. So apparently, from what I read from the description, Wonder Woman had a ray that she could then turn into Wonder Girl, into like a teenage Wonder Woman, and then into Wonder Tot, and then also Wonder Infant, so she could de-age herself for some reason. So yeah, just Keith Giffen, I guess, riffing on some of those ridiculous concepts from the Silver Age, something that would become commonplace later on, but I feel maybe he's the first to do, quite so openly within the same, publishing company. This is interesting. I don't know for sure, but what it feels like, definitely an Archie kind of style, right? But obviously different characters than the characters we meet in Archie. So this guy Binky, I assume, is some sort of Archie analog that DC created and published for a while, right? Based on the, I guess, popularity of Archie, or maybe, other companies did that. So Keith Giffen is riffing on that. Marvel did one as well, right, back in the day. So I'm not quite sure, but I feel like that's what this is. And apparently there's one character who's black. So it says here, "Don't hassle me, man. I was just a token in that book. I took the money and I walked through a couple of panels. You want to know what happened to Whitey? Find the mama." I thought that was just kind of funny. So here we're introduced to Super Turtle. Didn't even know he was part of, you know, the pantheon of super animals that Superman had, and were kind of popular at a certain time. I'm sure he's got the date for that one in here too. Does he? He doesn't give a specific date, but I'm guessing it's the 50s or the 60s once again. Pretty ridiculous that we got down to a turtle. This guy here, I see a lot of these types of characters in media around that time, like late 50s, early 60s. This is a common kind of theme, a sprite, a water sprite, or just a character that kind of looks like this, an imp of some sort, right? And we'll get Batmite later. It was just a thing for a while, even, you know, if you remember in the Flintstones as well, right? I forget what his name was, but they had an imp in there too. This is definitely a parody of, his name is Fred Hembeck, who draws in the style, but I do feel like this is Keith Giffen doing Fred Hembeck style, because there'll be tons of examples again in this issue of Keith Giffen drawing in the style of other artists, which is very interesting, and I'll definitely make note of as we go past it. And something he's known for doing, right? We've talked about how already in the reviews early on, he very much ripped off Kirby, and then, you know, even here in Ambush Bug and other comics, you'll see examples of him ripping off Munoz, the artist from Skinner. So here he just kind of cuts it down real quick and gives us, you know, 4 of the super animals on one page, who've also disappeared right at this point. Re-educated is what it says here for Bappy. Bappy? Is it Beppy, the super monkey? Yeah, it just feels like he's riffing on the kid gang kind of trope of comics. More examples here, guys. They're either, I would say, obscure DC characters or characters I don't even know. I do think this one appeared, so I'm going to assume he's an obscure DC character. I've never seen this guy before. Some interesting bits with the Batmite strip he does here. You know, Batmite's retired now, and he talks about, you know, boy, those were the days, right? Back with Batman, messing around with Batman. Back then, Batman was a real gas. He was always fighting criminals on top of giant appliances, going to alien planets, pulling great junk out of his utility belt. Then that fat girl got to him. Let's get back to that. All of a sudden, he's this creature of the night. His cape's 30 feet long, and he's got no sense of humor. Not quite sure exactly which period he's referring to here. Dark Knight Returns hasn't come out yet. I'm sure from the 60s to the 70s with Neil Adams jumping on to Batman, you know, there's a slight shift towards more the creature of the night kind of deal that he refers to here, and the longer ears and the you know, the big thing here, like Batman semi-smiling here throughout the Silver Age, and then kind of never smiles again for the dark period or whatever you want to call it. Definitely represented in the art there. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure which period he's referring to, but I guess the 70s on. But that line, then that fat girl got to him, I'm not quite sure who he's referring to. The only person I could really think of in Batman continuity in the 70s and 80s is like Ra's al Ghul's daughter, right? Talia al Ghul. But why he calls her fat, is it just as a joke or something? I don't know for sure. If anyone knows, let me know in the comments. Here, just a quick strip that talks about, you know, how Superman's powers are developed under a yellow sun. Yeah, this is the page that was a bit more interesting to me. So, Ambush Bug around the world. So, you bloody, bloody fools. Obviously, that should be read with a British accent. It's England. So, in England, Ambush Bug is called Almighty Buck, which, if you know about British culture, just totally works and is hilarious. And is drawn, I would say, what it feels like is he's going for a Judge Dredd 2000 AD kind of style. A little bit of Kevin O'Neill maybe, but yeah, that's the vibe I think he's going for. Here, listen to French joke, oui oui, mais non, oui oui. So that means no, yes, yes. From France, so this, I feel he's definitely channeling some Moebius for this kind of little panel here. Down here at the time, right, manga comics aren't that widespread here in the States. Keith Giffen would know about them though, and he's definitely riffing on kind of the cartoony manga from Japan, Mitsubishi. Okay, I just got the pun there. And over here, the Philippines artists, right? There's just something about it that's more, the style is like newsprinty or more romanticized or something. I don't know how to describe it, but you can, the tropes of that type of artist from the Philippines is definitely present in that panel. And I guess it's called American based because that's what would explain why the Philippines are into American culture and comic books and stuff. I don't know that much about it. I'm inferring here. Pulls out the old classic of the How to Draw Ambush Bug, so not much to say there. And this was interesting too, because again, those different artistic interpretations that he's riffing with. What if Keith had blown his deadline on this issue? Julie, the editor, may have given the assignment to Jack Kirby. So, you know, we know already that Keith Giffen's pretty adept at drawing in the Kirby style, so that's what he's doing here, right? Or Ernie Colon, I can use the money. I guess he was drawing at that point. This looks like a cross between Casper and Boy Millionaire. What is it? Richie Rich, right? Kind of, I guess, melded in with Ambush Bug as well, right? How about Frank Miller? The lip, right? There's something about Miller defining those lips on his male characters. You know, if you know about Frank Miller aesthetics, you're gonna love this. I like it, and the dark, you know, negative space, the shadow behind it works really well. He's really good at kind of spotting, you know, an artist's particular thing and extrapolating from it and doing something that it's easy to recognize. Even if they hadn't mentioned here, probably would have figured out most of these. There's always Steve Ditko. Wow, I must be up 200 or 300 stories. Hey, wait a minute. What's my line attached to, right? So things you probably wondered when you saw the old Spider-Man cartoon or saw some of those Ditko shots, right, in Spider-Man. And Gil Kane. So in 1985, you know, the joke here, I don't think would have been understood, but through reading and watching videos on YouTube about comics history and about comic artists talking about back in the day, I saw this interview with Gil Kane where, you know, he says Gil Kane would often do this shot, which is hard to draw, right? Where you're looking up at someone and you can see the underside of their nose, right? And the focus is on that in this panel because Gil Kane kind of mastered it, right? And would do it a lot because he was good at it, and other artists, you know, struggled with it. So it's just a shot you didn't see a lot of and that he was good at. So it makes sense that he would do it. That's the joke here. But also, past his obsession of getting that shot of the nose, Gil Kane even... you know, he had something with his nose. He got a nose job when he was younger, right? And it's almost as if, you know, he was always kind of drawing his nose, which I guess he felt his nose, once it was fixed in quotes or changed, I guess he saw his nose as the perfect nose or something. He had a thing for noses, but surely not Robert Lauren Fleming. So I don't know exactly enough about that character to know what he's riffing on artistically or subject matter wise, right? There's teriyaki burgers. I have no idea. Bunch of ads, right? Like in the old comics. Very cool, but not going to spend too much time on that. More of those obscure kind of, I guess, a cartoony period of DC Comics, right? The funny animal phase, and then, you know, the sci-fi kind of 50s phase, probably to work with the, in conjunction with the imps. And who else did we see? The water lily. It wasn't a lily. Troll, whatever. Doesn't matter. Does a little riff here on House of Mystery, right? Turning it into a real estate deal for the house. And some more obscure characters here that I don't know either. I think they're called the Awkwards or something. Anyways, yeah. Ace the Bat Hound, and I thought this was pretty funny here. This is actually a caricature of Julius Schwartz, the editor, right? And, you know, as he's been interfering in the comic, I assume from issue 1, but in issue 2 he was doing that as well. Sorry to interrupt, guys, but you're on page 18 and I haven't seen a fight scene. What are you trying to do? Get me in trouble? Don't start getting artsy-fartsy, okay? Which is, I guess, for DC Comics in 1985, the concept of this comic is probably that to them. Just a little bit artsy-fartsy. So, boom, he gives you kind of what I would describe as a Kirby action sequence, right? Where, you know, every panel is a different angle and different action, and you got the 9-panel grid. Although he's kind of giving you a comic book lesson, kind of. But he says, you know, first divide your page into 12 equal squares. This is 9, so I don't know if that's on purpose, if he's trolling. Kind of weird. And then I thought this was kind of funny too. You forgot to tell them not to violate the panel borders. And of course, in saying that, he does technically, but this is definitely something you can do in comics now. Something that was probably frowned upon in non-experimental comics, you know, and mainstream comics at DC and Marvel in the 80s, right? Not something you would do there generally, but I guess because of the nature of this book, Keith Giffen felt he can get away with it. And I think he does. It's funny. It's part of the whole gag, right? Another DC obscure character here. And when I got to this page, I finally understood this character here, who I guess existed and was kind of like the DC National Comics mascot back in the day, but she's, you know, Keith Giffen was using her as the continuity cop last issue, right? So that, now I kind of get it a little bit more, having seen her here. What is her name? I gotta say the lettering here for some of this, you know, when it's cursive writing, it's kind of hard to read. Johnny DC. Anyways, the continuity cop. Then it was you who cooked egg foo for dinner. That's right. He didn't fit in on Earth 1. I also adopted Wonder Tot, in case you're curious. I dumped her in limbo. She was strictly the pits. So it's okay. So the whole gag is it's revealed that she's responsible for all these characters' demises. Then I stood by the pizza palace and lured Binky away. He's locked in the trunk of a 63 Chevy where he can't get into my nice clean continuity. Okay, so she's trying to clean up the continuity, right? Makes sense. And then gets blasted by Darkseid. And when I got here, I remembered, oh yeah, last issue, Darkseid was at the end of it, serving up some hamburgers for Ambush Bug, which I thought was hilarious, but also kind of cool and in line with Kirby still, right? Like, you know, all these classic moments of Darkseid just showing up on Earth, and it's kind of, he's really out of place. I kind of like that. For some reason, even though it's a parody comic, I thought that worked. But then Darkseid again appearing in the last panel here. So I don't know, again, it's Giffen trolling us, you know, by hinting at Darkseid and just never really doing anything with him. Is he going to be at the last panel of every issue of Ambush Bug? I don't have issue 1. So right now it's only happened twice for me. So we'll see next issue, I guess, what's going on there. But, you know, I got to say, I definitely like the visual interpretation of Darkseid right here that Keith Giffen's done. I think it looks great, very Kirby-esque, so that works for me. But if Darkseid is to appear, I hope he does, because I feel like Keith Giffen could do something interesting with him within this series, right? And still keep it Kirby-esque. Because Kirby had some weird, surrealist, slightly, you know, parody kind of driven stuff with the New Gods anyways. All right, guys, there you go. That is my review of Ambush Bug issue number 3. If you're still watching and you're still subscribed, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. For those who are watching who are not subscribed, please like and subscribe below. It really helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. So everyone out there, thanks again, and have yourselves an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like, subscribe, subscribe.